And then there were three. Ferguson, Goodway, and Hervias face a narrow battle in the final race of the season. Sharing impressively close stats across the board, it may come down to bonus points being the deciding factor. We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds as we get ready to watch round 10 of the PRL GT3 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Circuit of the Americas plays host of the Championship Decider. It's a gorgeous facility worth a closer look, so let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas. The cliche of everything's bigger in Texas rings true for this track in the Lone Star State. Built specifically for Formula One, the number of corners, circuit length, safety features, and general track amenities immediately set this place apart from almost every racing course in the United States. Of the three layouts available, the most widely used is the Grand Prix circuit, which tops out at a whopping 20 turns along nearly 3.5 miles. Many of them have been modeled after well-known sections of European tracks such as Silverstone, Hockenheim, and Istanbul. But compared to those venues, this place still has lots of unique challenges. Turn 1 in particular features the largest elevation change from the lap and culminates in a blind and sharp hairpin. The penultimate corner is just as tough, with its off-camber apex and sudden drop forcing many to escape to the paved runoff on the outside. And though it was meant to lure F1, many other series have now raced here, ranging from IndyCar to WEC, IMSA, and even V8 supercars. Track days are also common, with the SCCA running all types of amateur events to allow up-and-coming drivers to feel what it's like to battle on the same tarmac as Vettel and Hamilton have. With this track, American race fans finally get to experience a purpose-built course made in the modern day. Texas went bigger and better, and in the process, raised the bar for their peers. Well, Adam, after 9 rounds and very little between the drivers, we arrive here at Circuit of the Americas. What are we out for?
Well, Circuit of the Americas is the first purpose-built racetrack for Formula One in the United States, with 20 turns spanning 3.43 miles or 5.2 kilometers. This fascinating racetrack features challenges for all drivers and driving styles, especially behind the wheel of the hefty GT3 machines. At first glance, you may think this circuit favors the Mercedes, and while that may be true headed down the long back straight, the rest of the circuit is a bear for them, with high curbs at each apex and tons of winding and twisting sections. COTA truly favors the more nimble models like the Lamborghini or the McLaren, though they may struggle to keep up with the Merc on the straight without a draft. The biggest passing opportunities are into the braking zones into 1 and 11, late braking after the straight onto turn 12, a dumb move up the inside of 13, a late apex over-under into 16, and a well-set-up pass into 20. All these moves, however, require confident driving offline through very technical sections of the course, and even then, they can be difficult to pull off. So look for those drivers who are able to do more than just driving the tire tracks of those ahead of them to thrive around here. Needless to say, with all of the challenges of this course and some difficult passing zones, track position is going to be extremely important today, Joe.
No doubt about that. Before we get to that racing, let's talk about our sponsors. Today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL GT3 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader, ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe. NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, if we take a look at those championships, starting off with the Pro Drivers Championship, up at the top, 3 of our drivers are all in contention. Ferguson, Goodway, and Hervias. Ferguson definitely has the advantage. He needs to have a bad race, but between Goodway and Hervias, it could go any which way if either of them finds a chance to pull one over on the Pure Sims esports drivers. Morales has been mathematically eliminated, and so has Braden Werner, but they are in a very tight tussle to decide who comes away the best off the podium. Adam, I believe you have the AM championship as well.
Absolutely. The AM drivers are a little bit more separated, but Neil Alexander has in fact clinched the race because of the turnout that we have tonight. He's clinched that championship up there for the first position. Kwok Nin is going to be 18 points back, very secure in that second position as well, with Brian Hotham 29 points back, also secure in his third position due to the turnout tonight. Matt Hilton secure in fourth, and Matthew Aubrey is actually the one who's under threat, but with Barry Cochran and Spencer Semkovich tied for sixth and seventh, tucked in right behind him. So fifth place could change over tonight, but those top four are secure in their standings for the season, Joe.
And we also have the team's championship as we take a glance at that one. Up at the top of that chart, we've got Parabola Racing Cobalt just about 38 points ahead of Pure Sims Free M. Now, it will be possible for them to overtake them. Be highly unlikely, especially with so few cars here today. Pure Sims SimMSA Esports Black is also quite a ways behind from them, but just a little bit closer. And then you go another nearly 40 points back to Parabola Midnight Team, where Pure Sims Esports is another roughly equidistance gap back into fifth. So unfortunately, things have spread apart in the team's championship. Not expecting too much shuffling about there unless we get some high drama with some major players. Why don't you run us through the race details here, Adam?
Absolutely. This is round 10 of 10 for the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Race Series. They all have a bunch of cars that they can choose from, all of them listed on your screen. The race distance for this is going to be 40 minutes. We have a 40-minute timed race here with an open setup and 50% fuel, which means they will be required to take a pit stop. They do have a drive-through penalty at 11 incidents, and they get disqualified at 17, which is quite a bit lower than in seasons past, and it's been a talking point all season for these drivers as well. They do have bonus points for fastest lap, pole, and 3 incidents or less, and that's definitely going to come into play as we talk about who's going to win that Pro Championship, Joe.
And Pole will know who gets the bonus point for that pretty quickly here because we're in the midst of qualifying. The other two, we actually have to wait for the checkered flag to determine who will come away with those other bonus points. And obviously only one of those three can be taken by multiple people. As we watch our provisional pole sitter, Tyler Hervias, who is coming around turn 10. They get 4 timed laps, but I don't think he's going to be able to get all of them in. He's only on his third, and it takes roughly 2 minutes to get around here. He's just crossed that 2 minutes to go mark. Menino, who sits in third, is just coming around the final corner right now to take his third lap. Let's see if he can go quicker than that 2:03.3.
Yeah, Menino was fastest in practice, so definitely has enough time to do it. He makes another 10th up, which is going to put him into second place over Diego Morales, so that's going to be his final time set for the day. A great time in provisional second place.
Kwok Nin improves and takes pole for the AM class back at the last second. Matt Hilton had just overtaken him seconds prior. Diego Morales, as he crosses, last one did not count for him. That'll be his last attempt. Only one of his laps counted, interestingly, so it was a difficult one for him. Michael Davies, far down and usually in 11th, and this last lap also had an off track. That's it for him. What about Tony Costello here in 8th? It looks like he will improve only in time, but doesn't take another position.
Looks like Hervais is going to take the lap that he did previously. That 202.718 is going to be his final time. 5 tenths up ahead of Menino, so that's pretty secure for him. So let's see whether or not Ferguson or Morales could put in a decent time.
Ferguson certainly wants that pole position to try and make it that little bit harder for anybody to overtake him in the points. And one thing I do want to clarify as far as the AM championship. Now, as long as we get Neil Alexander, and a spin there for Ferguson, so he's done with his qualifying. That takes us to Cortez. I was about to say, Neil could lose the championship if he does not finish more than half of the race. For them to get points, they need to at least run 50% distance. But again, that's a very low bar. Doesn't matter where Neil finishes, as time runs out for Cortez and takes us to our starting order for today. Up at the top, it is going to be Tyler Hervias starting on pole, taking that bonus point over David Menino starting in second. Diego Morales starts P3. J.R. Williams will be fourth with Cortez in fifth. Ferguson starting all the way down in sixth. Some unusual places for some of our championship contenders. Palacio seventh, Costello is eighth, and Lewis Goodway, another one of those fighting for it, will start from ninth. Braden Werner rounds out your top 10.
And then we have Quoknin on the pole position for the AM class, with Matt Hilton lining up on second row for them. They got Spencer Semkovich in the third position, lining up for the AM class, with David Morrison fourth, Neil Alexander fifth. And then we have the drivers who didn't set qualifying times, being Brian Hotham and Drew Dewis, lining up in the 18th position overall and seventh in class.
Looks like we got a lone on board tonight. So the 213 of J.R. Williams is going to give his perspective of this race as we hop in the cockpit and take a look at very cool looking sim space that he's got, his rig space all set up and very beautifully lit too, I have to say. And he seems pleased with himself as he's going to be starting from row 2 here. Let's see if he can improve upon that and take a win for himself as we wait for just the last couple drivers to grid up. Then we'll be on our way for 40 minutes. Well, we said the driver positioned best was Ferguson, but starting from 6th, that's not going to help his cause. And the best position to try and overtake him in the points is Hervias, who starts from the pole, makes that now only 8 points that he has to overtake, tied with Lewis Goodway, at least at this stage. Adam, looks like track conditions are pretty good here in Texas today for these GT3 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, only 80 degrees on track is pretty decent for Texas, and it looks like we have in sim time of about 7:09 p.m. virtual standard time. So that's going to put us racing not into the darkness because of the sim date, but fairly close to that. It's a nice sunset here with a southwest wind of 6 miles an hour. That shouldn't affect the drivers too much, especially in these GT3 machines, that they're a little bit reduced downforce compared to the other GT machines that we see running. But yeah, good track conditions for sure for these drivers. And I look forward to seeing what kind of a challenge they can put on at the top of this field. It'll be very interesting to see what happens here.
Yep, just going to have a very pretty sunset, which you can see already in the background. Hopefully that doesn't get in drivers' eyes as they come down for the braking at the end of the backstretch. As far as that AM Championship goes, Neil Alexander also starting a bit far back, but again, he only needs to complete half the distance, 20 minutes in this race, and he will be counted as the winner today. And just a couple more corners to go. Hervias waiting for that Porsche pace car to peel away. He'll have control of the field. See if he can get a good jump up to turn 1, where often we'll see drama. And no matter what series tries to tackle this place, it is a tight corner where it's difficult to see the apex. And many cars are filing in at once. Off the final turn, he takes off immediately. Green flag is out. Hervias gets a huge jump over Williams, Menino, and Morales as they follow him up into the first corner. Diego gonna go defensive as we got a little bit of side-by-side for 4th. That's Cortez, and it looks like he might actually be able to overtake Menino. No, he's gonna get the better launch, and everyone thankfully is clean through turn 1.
Yeah, very clean start for everyone. That's not often the case here at Circuit of the Americas, but it's going to be side by side entering the S's there between Goodway and Williams, actually, as they went side by side coming in there. Looks like everyone's going to be pretty clean as we go through the S's there, but Hervias off to a fantastic start. Menino challenging Morales for that second position.
Up through the S's critically for Ferguson. He gained a position. He's up to 5th now. He'll want to take a few more just to make sure and cover off any other eventualities. They come down into turn 10. This is the ever important exit onto the backstretch. Very close between Cortez and Menino, nearly getting into the back of that McLaren.
Absolutely. Ferguson with a pretty decent run through turn 11 now. As they come down towards turn 12, we're going to see who's got an opportunity to pass. I think Ferguson's going to have the best chance against Cortez as he looks up the inside for the 5th position. He's going to be alongside him by the time they reach the braking zone and goes very late on the brakes. Ooh, maybe too late. Almost gets into Menino, but he's able to hang on to it and forces Cortez a little bit wide. Now he's held onto that position. Move Ferguson up to 4th.
2 positions in the first lap for him. He'll be feeling good about that one. Alexander also did well in the AM category. He's up to 15th and 4th in that class. And coming out of the stadium section, Hervias is liking all the fighting that's going on behind him because he's already pulled a gap of nearly a second.
Alexander spun, Joe.
Ooh.
Neil Alexander spun coming through turn 16. This was a self-spin.
Looks like he didn't hit anything. Nobody got into him, so thankfully no damage for that car. As we come off the final corner, Menino is on a charge. He's putting immense pressure on the 22.
Absolutely. Ferguson's too far back to become part of this battle. Menino with a great run. It's not going to have a good enough run to take it into 1. Even though it's a very long braking zone, you send it up too deep in there and you can't get the car turned because of the angle of the turn at 11. It's so acute. But look at this. He's just tagging right along the back of Morales. I'm sure Hervais and Morales are both sweating a little bit because with Ferguson improving those 2 positions in 1 lap, it's going to be tough for them to try and put any pressure on Ferguson here. But look at this. Menino's so strong. He actually thought about taking a look up the inside of 7 there on Menino.
Didn't quite work out, but definitely putting himself in the mirrors of that 22 car. Behind them, it's not over between Ferguson and Cortez either. It looks like Gonzalo's trying to see if he can get that 4th place back. Let's see who's got the better grip coming off the hairpin of 11.
Decent late apex for Cortez as he tries to make that work. Looks like Menino's starting to back off a little bit from Morales just due to that corner exit, but Ferguson has got that thing trimmed out. That Lamborghini is very quick in a straight line, and he's starting to gain on Ferguson here. He's leaving Cortez in the dust.
Puts himself clear and actually puts himself almost into contention, but not quite close enough to Menino. No change for position down into 12 amongst any of our drivers, unfortunately. So everybody pretty much in line at this stage of the race. They're all following behind Hervias, who's already up to 1.2 seconds now. So he continues to add to that gap.
Yeah, Hervias gets too much far out in front. Morales is going to lose that draft from Hervias, and that's going to put him really susceptible to Menino and Ferguson. But Ferguson seems to be struggling with this 3rd sector of the race course. He's not quite as strong through here as he is through the 1st sector, and that's why we're seeing him back off a little bit into Cortez. Cortez now starting to become part of this 4-way battle for 2nd place.
And behind all of this is J.R. Williams giving watch in that 6th spot. As they come up to the 1st corner once again, Morales just took the fastest lap. A little wide there for Morales, actually. Maybe too fast of a lap as he sent it in hot into the 1st corner. Menino couldn't attack coming off the bend. He still lines him back up into the S's. This is where we saw him strong on lap 2. Let's see if he'll repeat that.
Yeah, the Mercedes is going to struggle as they go through this twisty section. It's such a heavier car than these guys, and you're seeing Menino really put pressure on. Goes a little bit wide there through 7. 7 seems to be a little bit of a struggling point as far as his entry is concerned. Ferguson actually backing off into Cortez, but Cortez takes the inside curb of 9 quite aggressively. Bounces off of that. He's going to fall back just a little bit here.
As they come down into 11 once again, watching for who gets the good exit. Last time, Ferguson seemed to be the best positioned. Ooh, and he's much closer this time to Menino. He's not only going to get better top speed, but he's going to get the slipstream to help him. Defending, David tries to cover him off, but it's going to be a little bit useless because there goes Ferguson, already passed and almost into the back of Menino. Cortez has to really get on the binders.
Yeah, this has brought J.R. Williams and Lewis Goodway back into this fight. Lewis Goodway, remember, back down in 7th position, even though he is battling for the championship spot as well. So the more these guys get held up behind Morales, the more it's going to bring the rest of the field back up to them. So right now we have Diego Morales in that second position. Then we got Ferguson, Menino, Cortez, Williams, Goodway, and even Davies isn't too far behind at this point.
We haven't mentioned it, I don't think, since we started, but leading the AM category is Matt Hilton right now. Quoc Ninh is trying to keep him honest. He's only back by about half a second. On to the front stretch now. Hervias a second and a half ahead of Morales, but Morales also 0.8 ahead of Ferguson. Ferguson now taking the fastest lap. A bonus point I'm sure he would love to keep until the end of the race. He's much more tidy down to the apex of one than Morales.
Yeah, Ferguson being very aggressive with this car in the early stages when these tires are at the freshest. I think that's going to be a good strategy because, like I said, track position is going to be so important around here. As you get later on in the lap and those tires start to wear, people aren't going to be able to pass you through these sections that are so twisty like this one, Sector 1. It's going to be coming out of turn 11 where they're going to be able to make those passes, and that's exactly when you want to just focus on maximizing your exit of turn 11, even if your tires are spent through these twistier sections. As you can see, Morales trying to stretch the gap from Ferguson and succeeding in doing so out to 0.8.
As it stands right now, if Ferguson keeps that fastest lap, trying to figure out what it will be between himself and Hervias, because Hervias did take a bonus point.
I think Tony Costello might have actually gone a little bit deep through turn 11. This is our last driver in pro category. He just got passed by Braden Werner, and now he's trying to draft him up the dirty side of the track. There's a lot of dust out there. He's going to go for the inside pass here, almost on the red.
He's given just enough space by Werner, but now he's got to get back to the racing line. Both of them are trying to send it as deep as possible. And for Costello, it's not too deep. He does take that 10th position right back.
A nice recovery move to make up for that deep move that he had in 11. Now back up to that 10th position and hoping to push forward and catch up to the back of Palacio.
So if I'm understanding it right, only 5 points difference as it sits now between the scoring of Hervias and Ferguson. So that would mean Ferguson would still be the champion if it finishes as it is, not taking into account the clean race bonus. Of course, that wouldn't affect it either, even if Hervias gets it and Ferguson does not. So far, though, Tyler has looked like the man to beat. That Lambo has been leading since the drop of the green and has been steadily distancing himself from everybody else. You see him on screen now.
Yeah, that Lamborghini just seems like the perfect car for this particular track. It seems to be very well set up to take these twistier sections around here, and it's awesome to see Tyler really taking off in the distance with that whole position straight up to the lead. He's just leading this race very effectively. Morales has started to fall back, like you said, to 1.8 seconds, and Ferguson looks like his climb has stopped. He's now under pressure from Menino and Cortez for that third position once again. Looks like he just can't seem to catch up to the back of Morales, even though Morales was struggling a little bit earlier on with that full fuel load.
We have to remember that they do need to worry about off tracks because the penalty here will be severe considering how easy it is to rack them up. And one way that I can tell if someone has not had a clean lap yet is if they don't have a best lap down. The only driver not to have one right now is Matt Hilton, our AM leader, which means he's got at least 4 incidents already here on lap 5.
So that's something you definitely have to be concerned about. The drive-through around here is extremely costly. The pit lane is very, very long and very slow, and it puts you out on an uphill, so you don't even get maximum acceleration when you come out of it. So that can always be a struggle. Taking a look right now at our leader, Tyler Hervias, as he's going around the track, leading these guys. Diego Morales 1.8 behind. Ferguson still 1.1 behind, but Menino can't seem to catch up to him.
Looking behind them at Menino, he's still got Cortez along with Williams and Goodway in there. Now, Goodway has gone up 2 positions, but he's not looked like he's really had anything to alter this championship, at least right now. Ooh, and Hervias just took the fastest lap back, so that's a 2-point swing. That does make it a little bit tight for Ferguson, but he would still be champion, I believe, until we figure out what the clean race bonus will be. We're on board with Cortez, looking ahead at Menino and really riding that rear wing just not giving him any space to mess up.
It looks like we get a lot of drivers who will tuck in really close behind someone, and they try and make a pass, or they think about making a pass into 12, and then they get backed out of it, and then they seem to fall back into the clutches of the people behind them. So that seems to be the trend we're seeing right now. Let's see whether or not Cortez is aware and can buck that trend. I also do want to report that David Morse had a self-spin entering turn 16. He's recovered and back out, racing in 17th overall.
So we watch from on board the Ferrari of Cortez. Here we go onto the backstretch once again. The cars really get wound up. The fastest part of the track. Gonzalo trying to ride in the slipstream of Menino. But at first I thought maybe he was going to try and defend from Williams. Doesn't seem to be the case. They're all going to get back to the racing line, braking hard down into 12. No change of position. Back there, I think Lewis Goodway is fancying his chances, is right up behind the rear bumper of Menino. Cortez was fantastic coming up to 13.
Absolutely, Cortez doing a great job, just tucked in right there. J.R. Williams also tucked in behind Cortez. This is really starting to heat up for that 4th position as Ferguson leaves Menino in the dust, and he's actually starting to close that gap up to Morales as well. It's down underneath a second, so looks like Ferguson is able to back off a little bit, get those tires underneath him, and as this track continues to cool off, we're down to 73 degrees on track, Joe. I think that we're going to start to see a couple of these drivers who've set up for the cooler temperatures start to really come to the fore.
And Hervias bests his own fastest lap, now down to a 2:03.223 for Tyler. Where's Ferguson? 3:95. So still quite close between them. Wouldn't be surprised if Daniel tried to respond. Watch the McLaren of Menino still stuck between Ferguson and Cortez down into the S's section. This always feels like such a hairy part of the track, even though it's got all that paved runoff. Those curbs can so easily chuck you off the racing line.
Yeah, it's one of the most challenging first sectors in all of racing. It's so difficult to do right here, just to drive through these sectors.
Ooh, did Kwok-Nin take the AM lead away from Hilton recently?
He did.
He did, yes. This happened into turn 1. I think we can get a replay of this one.
Yeah, this is just Hilton going a little bit too deep into turn 1. Yeah, Hilton outbroke himself here. So we're going to see it through the final couple of corners. This is through 19, heading to 20. Kwok-Nin very close behind. I think this is just a lot of pressure on Hilton. You can see how good of an exit that Kwok-Nin gets out of turn 20. So as Hilton and Kwok start approaching, you can see Hilton's already thinking about it. He's diving to the inside to try and ward off Hilton. And here we go. Up there, he just takes it too deep into 1, goes over that crest, doesn't lock it up, but just takes it a little bit too deep. And Kwok says, thank you very much. See you later.
Made him buckle. Great job by the 239. Hilton falls to 2nd as Kwok tries to see if he can now do the same and keep from falling to the applied pressure of the 09. He's still only back by about half a second, so this is certainly not over. A little mistake like that will hand it right back to his rival. Haven't missed anything up at the front. 2.8 seconds between Hervias and Morales right now.
And Hervias takes yet another fastest lap. So as these temperatures continue to cool down, it's going to keep getting better for these drivers out there. It's important to note that Lewis Goodway actually made it past J.R. Williams on the entry to 12. So here we are looking at Goodway and Williams. Goodway taking a little bit of a shallow line through 1. That's going to give an opportunity to Williams, but it's so hard to try and pass as we go into the S's. Williams is going to have to stay behind.
We're going to watch on board Williams. Let's see what he's experiencing inside his virtual cockpit. There you see him wheeling away. Can't quite see his wheel. We're
watching J.R. Williams really wrestle with that thing as he's going through this sector. Goodway was a little bit wide as he went through turn 6. That gave an opportunity for Williams. But look at Goodway really take off there in that Mercedes as they get through the corner through 10 down towards 11. Let's see whether or not Williams can get a good exit, because this often determines you gotta actually look to the inside there.
Yeah, way off the apex there for Lewis. And you can tell that you've got a triple screen set up for JR, the way he is just looking off to the apex as he turns in, and just how far you have to look to the side to try and find it down into 12. Watch once again, look at it all the way over.
Yeah, triple screens is great. VR often can feel a little better. It's just whatever you have, it doesn't even matter what you have. You can be fast at anything so long as you are adapting to your surroundings and able to put down decent and consistent lap times. So it's a great race right now.
Looks like Werner and Costello in a bit of a fight. This is for 10th position, and they're through the stadium section. I think Werner is the one that's going to come away ahead on that one. He actually had to play defense. Costello was trying to get by him down into 12 is where it started, continued on for a few corners, but let's see if Tony can regroup, give it another go into turn 1.
Absolutely a decent line for Werner coming through the final turn, so Costello's not going to have an opportunity on this particular lap, but Costello and Werner really have been duking it out for this last position in the pro class, so these guys having a good fight between themselves.
Not able to get there this time up into the first corner. Now, I've been trying to go over this in my head, and an interesting thing about the championship with Hervias now holding the fastest lap and Ferguson in third. If Hervias gets a clean race bonus and Ferguson does not, that will tie them on points, and they will be one race win difference with Hervias to the good. He will win on a count back if it finishes as is with that clean race bonus going that way.
Yeah, so the math is going on with all these drivers. Hervias is driving to the best of his ability out front and needs to keep his focus on that, but you know that if he's got a team tucked in behind him, they're all going to be focusing on what that situation looks like. But all Hervias can do up front is just drive the best race he possibly can and keep streaking away from Morales and hope that Ferguson isn't able to catch the back of Morales or doesn't play something interesting in the pit stops. That being said, I haven't seen anyone just tucking in behind another driver and trying to save any fuel to make a shorter pit stop. So I'm not sure whether there's going to be any strategy plays when we hit the pit lane. We are almost to the halfway point, so definitely the window is open if somebody wants to try an undercut.
Gonna go back to Kwok Nin and Matt Hilton fighting for the AM lead. Gonna watch from on board Hilton's perspective, looking at the rear of the Mercedes AMG down through the final left-hander of the stadium section. Both of them a little bit wide. Ooh, and a little wheel spin it looked like as well from the 239.
Yeah, absolutely. These two definitely battling it out for that lead of the AM class, the final AM win that you can get today. And it looks like Michael Davies has decided to come into the pits, so an early strategy call here.
Okay. So he's going to try and take a bit of an unusual method, splitting it almost perfectly in half. Hilton looking very close. Can he do something to Kwok up into the first corner? Looks like Nin's going to go slightly defensive, then come back to the racing line to the right side, trying to make it as wide as possible. Can he avoid the same mistake that we saw from Matt? He can, but just barely. He does take it in a little bit hot, and Hilton is now about a car length behind, but it's hard to pass into the S's.
As they start diving through the S's, an update on Michael Davies. His stop was about 8.5 seconds, spent 33 seconds in the lane. So that's going to be our barometer for the rest of the guys. He's coming out in the middle of the AM class, tucked in behind Spencer Semkovich, who's about 7 seconds back of this particular battle. So we'll have to keep our eyes out to see how Davies progresses here. But he's got traffic that he's got to deal with, and traffic that is definitely slower than him. Their best laps are separated by about 2 seconds per lap. So Davies is going to have some work cut out for him to try and make it through here and not lose time to the leaders. And here we go. Hilton off of 11. Not a great exit. Kwok Nin starting to streak away in the distance.
Yeah, he's not been able to regain that AM lead since he lost it. It's going to be a little bit frustrating. Maybe he could do something in the pit stops, like you mentioned, if he could just manage to leapfrog him and get that track position back. No change down into turn 12 between the pair of them. Interesting to note about Davies is, I think actually it's not too bad of a call. Yes, he's going to have to get by Simkovich, but he doesn't have all that much traffic around him. And it's not going to be long before we have to see the other drivers come in. So once Davies can clear Spencer, he's actually pretty much able to just run his own pace.
Absolutely. It's important to note that Spencer Simkovich, who's in the multicolored Ferrari up ahead of Davies, does not have to get out of the way of Davies, even though they're in different classes. Both of them are driving in the same car class, even though they're in different championships. So Simkovich not at all mandated to get out of the way of Davies, but Davies, look for him to make a pass here as they exit the final turn and go up to one.
Oh, he's all over the back of him. Look at this. Down to the inside as the 75 sizes up the Ferrari. He's already got his nose to the quarter panel, and he's going to brake way later. In fact, it almost looked like Simkovich decided to give that one up, knowing that's not his fight. He's on a different strategy.
And up at the front, Ferguson and Menino were going a little bit side by side as they went through turns 5 and 6. Menino with some decent pressure on Ferguson, as Ferguson made a little bit of a mistake going through the beginning of the S's, but here we go, down the straight. But man, Ferguson just has straight line speed for days on these guys, Joe. Menino can't even gain on him in the draft.
Even still, Ferguson is very much in the danger zone here. He's already very close to the edge of losing the championship, sitting in this third spot. If he goes to fourth, it's almost a certainty that he'll see that one slip away. So he's got to play defense, and most certainly will want to try and up the pace to see if he can take second away from Morales and clinch no matter what happens around him.
Yeah, this is way closer than I would want to see Menino in my mirrors, and knowing how Menino's definitely being very menacing, being fairly aggressive, trying to get Ferguson to make a mistake. Ferguson so far has kept it clean, a little bit loose as he goes through turn 19. Menino thinks about looking up the inside, thinks better of it, gonna try and stem up out of 20. Doesn't often work. He's able to get decent speed, but once again, Ferguson just pulling away in a straight line. Menino's going to have to do something special under braking in order to get past Ferguson, and even then, I'm not sure he's going to be able to retain that position because of Ferguson's straight line speed, Joe. But Ferguson a little deep through one. Menino tries to cross him over, but nothing doing heading to the S's.
Ooh, Ferguson may be overdriving a little bit. We're seeing those small mistakes here and there, hustling this Lamborghini around the track, down through the S's. Straight line speed, often a trade-off for not being as quick through here, and Menino showing he can certainly get the car right up underneath that rear wing, out of the S's now. Is this where we can see Ferguson try to get himself away?
Ferguson's got some mean slip angle going on that Lamborghini. I think that he definitely has this thing trimmed out quite a bit, which is affecting his ability to take it through the S's. After he takes his pit stop, I'm going to be interested to see how that car behaves and what its true pace is like, because once we put more fuel in it with the same tire wear, I think that could definitely affect him. But Menino, way too far back to make a move as Ferguson runs away with it.
Don't need to go there, but another of our drivers pitted. David Morrison, the 27, is in.
Oh, he's too loose. He gets loose, Ferguson does, going through turn 12, and here we go, Menino up the inside. This is the opportunity he needs.
Side by side coming through the stadium section. Inside of the next apex, gonna go to Ferguson, but he's got to get the launch off. Does he cover him off, force him wide? No, he'll give him space. Now coming down to the triple apexer. It'll swing back to Menino. The inside of 3 different apexes. Is that short distance going to be enough to give him the spot? No, it does bring him in closer. Ferguson on the off-camber turn 19 goes a little bit wide. Now he's got to worry about Menino pulling the over-under. He slams the door shut through turn 20 onto the front stretch. This all happening in front of Cortez as well. He could snatch both these spots.
And Ferguson once again running away with that straight line speed advantage. Is Menino going to think about trying to send a deep late one up the inside of 1? No, he's not. He backs out of it. Cortez right up the back of Menino right now. But once again, Ferguson really loose under braking right now at the apexes of the turns. He can't seem to get it turned, and then on exit, he gets extremely loose. This is going to play to Menino's strength for sure. Ferguson, once again, going to have to throw it through the S's here. Let's see whether or not he can hang on to the car. He goes a little bit deep into 4. Now going through going through 4, now once again going through 5, diving down into that corner. Such a challenging corner to get right as the long arcing 6 comes up as well. And then we go through 7, 8, and 9. It's going to be very close here. Menino with a great run, but he can't make the move on Ferguson before the straight. Otherwise, Ferguson's just going to try and pass it back.
He's not even going to look for it. He's trying to get as wide an entry as possible, maybe too wide, off into the AstroTurf. The car fishtails slightly off the corner. He is going to get that slipstream, but so is David Menino behind him. Or excuse me, Cortez behind him. Menino, oh man, just nothing for that Lambo as close as he was. That 676 is flying.
Loose again.
Once again, the same mistake, Adam.
Yeah, he went a little bit deep this time. He tried to take a little bit more speed through the corner to make sure that he kept the car underneath him. It didn't work out for him, but now look at this. Menino having to block off Cortez as Cortez is looking for a nice move on the inside. Menino trying to do the over-under once again as they come out of 16, but can't quite get it done. Ferguson just battling for his life here.
And the great thing about this is we've got 3 different makes of car represented: Lamborghini, McLaren, and Ferrari, all in one. Still haven't seen our leader come in. It's getting close to the end of the pit window, so, and there we go right there.
Yeah, that's going to be Menino and Cortez. It looks like Ferguson's going to stay out, so Cortez almost hitting the back of Menino. So there's our leader, Hervias, as he was going up towards turn 1. So we got 2 pit takers. These are our first of the lead pack to come into the pits. This will be interesting. We'll see whether or not Menino and Cortez are able to gain time with the undercut, Joe.
I wonder if this is causing Ferguson a little bit of nervousness.
Oh, Cortez missed his box.
Oh, Cortez will be paying dearly for that one. So now it might be up to Menino on whether or not he can jump him, but Cortez is out pretty quickly.
That was a very short stop. I think about 2.3 seconds for him. Spencer Samkovich is also in for the AM class. He's pitting from 3rd place in AM.
Not sure that's accurate for Cortez. I wonder if that was messed up by him backing up and our timing and scoring maybe having an error. Well, in the meantime, he'll get back on track. How much fuel did he take? Semkovich in his pit stall. Will we see anybody else respond? We're waiting for the top 8 to come in and pit. With some of those pit stops, our AM leader, Kwok Nin, has made his way into the top 10. However, he's dealing with Gonzalo Cortez trying to take position since Gonzalo has taken his stop.
Yeah, so Cortez tucked in behind Koknin at this point, trying to get his way by. And we're looking at Cortez right in behind Kwok as they go down towards turn 12. And Cortez just doesn't have the straight line speed to get Kwok. This is actually going to hold him up. Let's see whether or not he tries to take him under braking here into 12. He does.
So nice clean pass down into 12, but
and our
Tyler
leader's in.
Hervias is in, and Morales stays out. So does Ferguson. So Ferguson isn't responding. That's interesting. J.R. Williams is in. Lewis Goodway is not. A mixed bag of strategy calls on lap 14.
I think Ferguson knows that his car is going to be a little bit unhappy when he comes out with that extra fuel. So that could be playing a factor here, but Ferguson just not very quick on track. His last lap was a 2:04.165, which when we're talking about our leader, Tyler Hervias, his last lap was a 2:03.101. So quite a big difference on lap time between those guys.
37's back out in 4th place. Still waiting for guys like Palacio and Costello to take their stops. Plenty of the drivers who have pitted file on through, and J.R. Williams just ahead of David Menino. Williams with a great stop, and he might snag a position out of this. Almost there, but they're side by side, and eventually he has to give best to David.
A great attempt from J.R. Williams to get that undercut done. He actually missed his box a little bit too, so Menino back out on track with those tires back up to temperature, really starting to work that McLaren around this track. We have the Lamborghini of Williams just tucked in behind Menino now, trying to get his tires back up to temperature. He's got a decent run at Menino. Menino's got to be careful because he doesn't want to spend a lot of time battling with Williams because his battle's with Ferguson.
Absolutely. So this is worst news possible for David. Williams.
Oh,
yeah, I saw the same thing.
Climbed the curb a lot on turn 11 just off screen, but look at this. Here we go. Williams right up the back of Menino. If he wants it, he's going to take a move. He's going to take the look into 12.
Side by side, his teammate fighting him for it, and it doesn't look like he's going to fight him too hard. Lets him have the apex. J.R. Williams is through.
Yeah, but how much is this detrimental to Menino trying to challenge Ferguson as Morales comes into the pits, waiting to see whether or not Ferguson does Ferguson into the pits as well.
Good way, and I think that is it. All we need is Nin and Hilton to pit. Otherwise, everybody has come in for their scheduled fuel with just a little less than 9 minutes to go. Now, Hervaya should easily take that lead back. In fact, he's already coming off the final corner and across the line.
Perfect pit stops for the three guys in the pits now. It's up to see whether or not Williams and Menino can get this out before Morales, or before Ferguson, rather.
Ferguson is rolling. Menino is back there. I think Ferguson's got this easily.
Yeah, Ferguson already going through turn one as they enter the braking zone. Ferguson with a very short stop himself. Up there now in the third position, so he easily takes it away.
And Goodway with his pace and, wow, a relatively good stop, has got himself into fourth. Remember, he began this race in ninth, so bad qualifying or no, I'd say the 74 is able to make up for it and get himself a decent finish today.
Absolutely. So the overcut was the strategy to go with, it turns out, and that makes a little bit of sense considering the lowering temperatures that we have going around here. You either want to have a tire advantage or you want to have a temperature advantage, and the temperature advantage definitely coming into play for these guys. But Menino, who started in second position, down to sixth now and not putting pressure on J.R. Williams.
So Goodway is also, let's remember, in the championship hunt, and though he won't be able to beat Ferguson, he could take valuable points away from him, and he'll have all the impetus in the world to try and overtake him in his hopes of maybe claiming this championship.
Yes,
so if he can get to the back of the 676, I have to imagine he's going to go for it.
Absolutely. This will be their first true lap of pace for these guys to see whether or not... well, actually, Lewis Goodway just came out of the pit, so it won't be a true lap of pace, but next lap, we'll see what their relative pace is to each other, Ferguson and Goodway, and that'll help determine how this is going to play out here. But Ferguson has 2 seconds over Goodway, and we know how strong Ferguson is in the straight lines. So with 6.5 minutes left to go in this race, there's not a lot of time for Goodway to make a move as he goes wide off the exit of the final corner.
Well, this is about the most comfort that Ferguson has had this entire race. Most distance, and as soon as I say that, he goes deep into turn one, still pushing hard to try and make things a little bit better for himself, but he's got to catch up to second place by the number of about 3 seconds. So that'll be a pretty big task and so few laps left. Not sure that even as quick as it is in a straight line, this Lamborghini is up for it.
Just one bad corner means Lewis Goodway now to 1.4 seconds behind Ferguson, 1.3 and closing. So Ferguson's car not liking these cooler temperatures. Cooler temperatures make the car looser, and we're seeing that definitely playing out for Ferguson as Goodway is continuing to close that gap. He's also got pressure from behind from Williams and Menino. And if Ferguson loses more than just the position to Goodway, he's in serious trouble for the championship.
Absolutely. If he loses the position a good way, the championship is effectively out of his hands, and Hervaya will claim it. Now, speaking of which, I believe we haven't really seen much in the way of off tracks, but there definitely have been a few. So that is a giant question mark. And if neither of them take it, I believe it still goes to Ferguson. But man, we really will actually have to rush over to the results, see who has how many incidents to try and suss this out at the very end. This has been as tight as it can get after 10 rounds of a championship. Hervaya, though, you got to give credit to him, has been doing everything he can to give him the best shot possible. He knew he was coming in on the back foot. He knew that basically he could only do what he could do, and then it was in fate's hands. Well, right now, fate looks like it could be giving him a Mona Lisa smile.
Absolutely, the gaps continue to close behind him between Ferguson and Goodway, but Hervias doing exactly what he needed to do. He went out, got that pole position, and he's led every lap of this race where he has been within pit cycles. So doing a great job, 6.5 seconds ahead of Diego Morales, and Ferguson falling back from Morales 3 seconds. It's starting to get real close back there for that third position. It's also close in the AM championship between, well, not the championship, but the race rather, between Quoken and Matt Hilton. They're only separated by half a second on track still. So Hilton not giving up the charge to try and make it back to Quoke.
Glad to see that never say die attitude from Matt. Down to those 0.8 of a second, but where is Hervias right now? So don't think he's getting the white flag next time by. I think we'll have 2 to go. Oh, and getting very close now. Even better run through the first corner, chopping off 0.3. It's down to half a second between the 239 and the 09.
Very, very close as Menino. Wow, he's going to look for a move here on Williams. Here we go.
Down to the inside, right back past his teammate. Is he going to play as nice as he did with him before? Yes, he is. Lets him have the apex. And so Menino back into 5th.
Goodway starting to fall back from Ferguson a little bit, back to 1.5 seconds. Ferguson clawing a little bit away towards Morales, down to 2.8 seconds between Morales and Ferguson. Ferguson putting on the jets here in the final laps of this race.
Watching our leader to see what time he goes by, and I'm pretty certain at this stage it will indeed be 2 to go. Here he is. Yeah, with 2.5 minutes, 2 more laps for the 37. He's pulled it out to 6.5 seconds.
Ferguson made a mistake. Goodway is close to within a second now. Goodway going off track to try and catch up to the back of Ferguson. That's going to leave him a little bit compromised on the straight line, but it's now underneath a second between Ferguson and Goodway.
Ooh, and I hate to peel us away from this, but Davies and Costello are very close together down the front stretch. The 75 under threat. Costello looking actually a little bit quick as they break into the first corner. He's going to size him up, tries to get down to the inside. He's given space, but he's pinched to the bottom, and he can't make it stick.
Nice try from Costello to get up the inside of Davies. Davies saw it coming and gave him enough room to maneuver. Costello just had to, he didn't want to get into Davies either, so he didn't carry the speed through, which is, you know, good sportsmanship. But look at this, Costello just looking very comfortable here in that McLaren.
And Davies up from 11th to 9th currently, so he's not going to want to give this up. But Costello is down from where he began the race, so he's got some work to do, and he's certainly making sure that Davies is going to have to work for this one.
Absolutely. All right, here we go on to the long back straightaway here. We've got him tucked in behind Davey. It's going to be really, really close as they come towards the braking zone. Very quick down the back straightaway, but not quite enough speed out of that McLaren on the Mercedes. He's going to look to the inside anyway. He's going to be given some room here. Almost contact at the apex. A little bit of contact as they come off the exit. Very close. Costello trying to make Davies work for this position. Very close. Oh, the GT3s so close together. The Mercedes and Costello trying to put all the pressure on Davies. Can't quite get the over-under. Davies covers off the corner and is able to hold on to it.
Hervias takes the white flag ahead of all of this. Interestingly, Hilton, and Quoken are side by side right now. Hilton going around the outside, down into turn 12 for the AM lead, but he's way too wide, and Quoke will retain it.
Oh, let's see whether or not, Hilton does not go up the inside. Quoke's going to hang on to it just a little bit, but it's very, very close between these two for that AM lead. Absolutely. Nothing doing though. The Mercedes covering off the Ferrari as we go around these corners. But look at this, Matt just putting a ton of pressure on. And Joe, the gap between Goodway and Ferguson is down to 0.6. I'm still not sure that's going to be close enough for Goodway to try and make a move.
Yeah, he's got to be a lot closer than that. He's only got this lap left to go. In fact, half of this lap really left to go for him. We continue to follow Our AM leaders coming onto the front stretch. They now take the white flag themselves.
Matt Hilton just a little bit too far back to affect a pass there. I can report that Goodway's fallen off back to 8/10 before the braking zone for 11. So barring a mistake from Ferguson, I think he's going to be able to get away with this. But man, so close between these AM leaders.
Yeah, this one is definitely still on. I'm keeping an eye on overall leader. Don't worry, we'll switch to him, but it's been a calm, but a mercifully calm race for him.
Side by side between Michael Davies and Tony Costello for the 9th position on track. They're just going side by side down the back straight here. And it's just a drag race between the McLaren and the Mercedes. The McLaren keeping pace right now.
It's a very slippery car as they brake hard down into turn 12. Is either willing to give way, almost making contact, but just enough space, nearly banging doors. It switches back, and the Merc is going to have the advantage through here. Can he finally shut the door? He does, but we got to go back to Tyler Hervias because he's got one corner to go. And Tyler will take the win as well as the bonus for fastest lap and pole. Will that be enough for the championship? Morales is going to get second, and Ferguson will take third. We'll only know the championship in a few moments' time as we have to let the rest of the cars through.
Absolutely. Menino going to come home in that 6th position as well, and it's very close between Koch Nin and Matt Hilton, and also Costello and Davies once again. Unfortunately, Costello able to come home in that 9th position, but here's the AM Championship we're looking at right now. Matt Hilton and Koch Nin. Matt Hilton took it deep into turn 12, but couldn't make the pass. He's a little bit too far back. He's got one more opportunity, and that's going to be into the final corner, but he's just going a little bit too wide as they go through the long, sweeping corners here. Koch Nin looking in a very good position here, and Matt Hilton, just a little bit too loose through there. I think Koch's got this.
Well, unfortunately, he won't have the championship, but he'll end on a high, taking victory here at Circuit of the Americas. But because he finished half the race, Neil Alexander is our AM champion. We'll be back and try to bring you those championship results unofficially if we can after this short break. Stick around, though, because we'll have the unofficial race results as well as driver interviews. back to Circuit of the Americas. It was the final round for the Precision Racing League's GT3 Sprint Series. It came down right to the very end. And though Tyler Hervias did win the race and took all 3 bonus points, he missed out by a single point over Daniel Ferguson. So Hervias didn't take the championship, but he did take the win. Morales was second. Ferguson is third and your champion. Lewis Goodway behind him in fourth with J.R. Williams in P5. David Menino finished sixth and Gonzalo Cortez in seventh, followed by Braden Warner into eighth. Tony Costello, a ninth for him, followed by Davies rounding out your top 10.
Then we have Palacio coming home in the 11th position, the last of the pro drivers, and Kwok Nin takes the win over Matt Hilton in the AM class. A very close battle between those two, but Kwok able to hold off Hilton there. Spencer Semkovich comes home in third position after taking the first pit stop for the AM class, so the undercut working well for him, with Brian Hotham coming home in fourth, Neil Alexander fifth, David Morse sixth, and Drew Dewey's in the seventh position in AM and 18th overall, and your last finisher of the race.
That takes us to our winner for today. Tyler, I don't know if you've done the calculations, but by ours, I have unfortunate news that you are a single point behind in the championship on Ferguson. But you did do everything possible. You basically ran a perfect race today, leading all the way with pole and fastest lap. That's got to be at least be consolation that you did all you could.
Pretty good race. Pretty quiet out front. I just tried to do everything, try and minimize the gap to Daniel in the points, but did everything I could, and it just wasn't enough. But it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But other than that, it was a great race. So yeah.
You three certainly put on an impressive season. In fact, you did take more wins than him over the course of the season, with 4 of them, the most of any driver in this season. Do you think if you have the ability to come back, you can maybe make use of that and make a few improvements to move that one step forward?
Yeah, I think this season taught me a lot, and it probably changed my approach, do some things differently. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good season overall, and congrats to Daniel on the championship win and Lewis for the close battle as well.
That said, this was certainly an interesting track to have that final race on, especially with the incident points being so hard to avoid around this place. Did that make you nervous coming in? Did you do any focus in the practice on trying to keep yourself clean the whole way?
To be honest, I was really struggling with getting off tracks in the practice, but once I was in the race and I built a pretty decent gap in the beginning, I just started to manage the gap, take it easy a bit, and just be careful on the incidents, because I knew it would be close in terms of points at the end. So I just did everything I could to keep it on the track, and yeah, it worked out pretty well.
It was an impressive job, only taking 3 incidents in 40 minutes. Well, congratulations regardless on the win. That was an immaculate drive, sir. That was Tyler Hervias, our winner here today. And then up next, Adam's going to talk to our AM winner, Kwok Nin.
Yeah, Kwok, fantastic drive today. A hard-fought battle between yourself and Matt throughout the race. Talk to me about your battle with him.
Well, I was planning on saving fuel with him because he took the lead, but I think he made a few mistakes which got me in front of him, and he was staying pretty close. I was getting a little bit nervous, and then I was half thinking about letting him pass by, but then he did another mistake. But then, like, towards the end of the race, he started catching me again, and then I had to close the inside so he couldn't get past me.
Absolutely, and some nice side-by-side battles between the two of you, especially through that through the back end of that second sector. But I mean, like you said, the pit strategy seemed to be an interesting one for folks today. A couple of people choosing to do the undercut versus others doing the overcut. And what was your philosophy going into it? Were you trying to run it until it ran out, or did you have a different idea of how to do the pit strategy today?
My pit strategy was the same as every other race. I was trying to save as much as fuel as I can, try to get an extra lap in and pit. But, Hilton also saved just the same amount of fuel staying behind me, so we both pit at the same time.
Yeah, great drive between the two of you for sure. And Circuit of the Americas is always a challenge for any sort of class, but you're driving the Mercedes, which is one of the heavier cars out here. How challenging is it, especially going through the S's in that Mercedes?
Um, Even though it was a heavy car, it was still very well balanced. Like anytime I was making a turn, I would have to lightly trail brake to get through the S's.
Awesome job, Coke, and congratulations on the AM victory today. And is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
I just want to thank my PRL team. It's my first team. I want to thank them for giving me all the advice to focus on my safety rating and then focus on my lap times after that.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Coke, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
All right. Thank you, guys.
That was Coke Nin, our AM victor, and we've got Diego Morales, who finished second place, talking to Joe.
Absolutely. Diego, apologies. We didn't get to cover you a whole lot other than a bit of pressure early on in the race. You seemed to kind of just drift off into your own little space for the rest of it. Did it feel that way from inside the car?
Sorry, guys, had a problem with my headphone here. Can you guys say it again?
Yep, I got you loud and clear. Apologies that we didn't get to cover you much after a bit of pressure early in the race. You kind of drifted off into your own little space on the track. Did it feel calm from inside the cockpit?
Not so much for me, actually. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes this season, so I knew I had to be at my best to fight with these guys. So yeah, I was in the limit there, trying to not make any mistakes. So not so calm on my end, but yeah, it worked out at the end.
Yeah, as you watch drivers like Tyler just be able to continually put in, more tense between you and him as the race goes on. Do you take any notes? Do you pick up pointers from anything that you see from them, or are you so focused on your race you don't really have the headspace for that?
Yeah, for his time on the qualify, I knew that he would drive away from us, so I was trying just to do my job there, not make mistakes, and be consistent. And I was trying more to manage the gap behind instead of looking at the front. So yeah, I think that was my whole race. Yep.
Well, it looks like you're going to have some steep competition for next season. Do you tend to come back and try and challenge once again?
Yeah, I have some personal conflicts. I'm trying to manage that to see if I will be able to race. But yeah, I will definitely want to try to race because there will be some really, really fast guys. So excited to the next one.
We're excited as well. That was Diego Morales, our second place finisher, but the man of the night, he might have been third on the track, but Adam has caught up with our new champion, Daniel Ferguson.
Yeah, Daniel, based upon our count back, it looks like you took the championship by 1 point, so congratulations. And talk to me about your race today. You're under pressure for pretty much the entire thing.
Oh, well, that's been a long season. It's been a great battle with Tyler and Lewis the whole season, and coming into this, I thought I was going to be okay. But then in the qualifying, I accidentally loaded the wrong set. And then in the race, I did as well. So I was running on 3-wing for that whole race. So I knew by the end of it, I would have a lot of pressure from Lewis and Menino and Gonzalo. But whew.
Absolutely, and we could tell that your car didn't look exactly planted as you were going through the S's a couple of times. So absolutely, how challenging is it driving this course, period, but especially with a set that's not built for it?
Well, I had to completely change all my braking points, especially at the end of the long straights, to where I have to back it up about 50 meters, going to be going in that much faster. Luckily, it was pretty stable through the S's on most laps. So I figured if I could just get to the straights, I would be fine. Because even in draft, I'd still pull a 10th or 2 of safety.
Absolutely, and we saw that happening for sure. But a fantastic season for you overall, and coming home with the points victory today, coming home in third position. How are you feeling as the champion right now?
I'm a bit relieved, to be honest. Tyler drove a perfect race today, and yeah, looking forward to. I'll be coming back next season. I just need to register. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Daniel. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go tonight?
Just want to thank all the sponsors, Craig Setup Shop, OBP, SimLab, and everyone at Pure Sims for all their help throughout the season. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks, guys.
That was Daniel Ferguson, our champion, and finishing in third place today, but our champion in the season overall. Back to you, Joe.
Man, that was an absolute thriller. And I'm hoping we get just as great of a championship run next season in the AM and Pro Championships, which will have their own races, in fact. But we got to close up with a thank you to our sponsors, of course, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. You can find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And NinjaTrader.com. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And finally, Butt Kicker products. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. And we'll be back for the PRL GT3 series on June 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, because in just a few moments' time, we're going to the Laguna Seca for the Porsche Owners Club. That'll kick off at 10:45 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.